There we go. Okay, hi YouTube. Anyway, I'm just going to get going. Sorry about that. I had technical difficulties just getting set up with YouTube. I just restarted my computer. If in doubt, restart your computer. So anyway, my name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's bratbusters.com, and you can hire me for coaching. Buy one of my courses. My big one's out now. The big one on teaching you how to be a calm leader. It's 5 weeks. That one's out now. And then also on my homepage, you can download my free behavior board. And that teaches you how to give respect to get it, because you're on there too. And just a sec here. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. What to do when your 3-year-old just won't listen at all? I've tried your behavior board. The behavior board is about 10% of all this. It's just a tool that I use to help you get going. But if you really need my help, if it's not going, you're missing something else. There's just some little thing, and it's different with every single family. I don't know. Like I actually, sometimes I'll get people, friends or family who hire me separately, and then they'll compare notes and it's completely different. They'll say, well, you get a completely different Lisa to the one I get. It's because you need to hear different things. So it was really funny. I came up with this analogy or something. I thought it was brilliant. So I told this analogy and I wrote it down. I thought, because this parent said, oh my God, I get it now. Now I get it. And I'm going, oh, I tapped into the mother load. I get it. I wrote it down, told it to the next client in personal private coaching. And they're like this. Like everyone resonates with something different. I thought that was the mother load. I thought that's the one statement that would just sum it all up. But yeah, only for that one parent. So I never know, everyone needs something different. Anyway, if you want my help, if something's going on and your 3-year-old's not listening and all the behavior board's not working, you just need more help. That's all. But you can try my course. That is, it's on my website, bratbusters.com. It's all available now. It explains what happened. It was available. I had to take it down because it filled up. I put it out again. Anyway, so that's there. If you're interested in that. Yeah, okay. For us, the board is a way, sugar. For us, the board is a way to stay calm, to refer to and avoid heated lecture. Refer to the board. Yeah, what it does is it's a symbol of change. It's a symbol of, I know what I'm doing now. But you only know what you're doing with that one rule. Sorry, this hair is driving me nuts. You only know what you're doing with that one rule because there's only one rule on that first behavior board. Then week 2, you have 2 rules. Week 3, you have 3 behavior boards, 3 rules. So yeah, but you're just learning with one rule. If I was to go into your home, I would deal with everything in the first day. Pretty much have things sorted out pretty quickly. But that's because I'm level 10 with what I teach. Obviously, I wouldn't be teaching it if I wasn't, right? So you're learning one level at a time. So you're going to start slow, and things usually get worse before they get better. But we're not fixing kids here. We're teaching you how to be a calm leader. I worked with hundreds of kids. Was it the kids or was it me? Like what drove that mutual respect? Was it me or was it the kids? Were they teaching me? Or was I teaching them? You see, you lead and they will follow. It's just the way it is. Okay. I started out this live talking about how I'm getting frustrated with myself with my business because I keep thinking I know what parents need, but then you keep telling me what you need. You really want more toddler stuff, don't you? And I always say, just wait it out, wait out the toddlers. So anyway, I am working on a toddler course now. I said I wasn't going to do one, but I am working on one now. I thought, how am I going to explain toddlers? Because they're just crazy. So I thought, really, I've got it kind of figured out now. It's a lot of what I talk about on here and a few other little things. So I am working on the toddler course now. I gave in. I'm doing a toddler course because I said I'll never do one because this is what the course would be. This would be it. Toddlers are crazy. The end. But turns out I've found a few more things to put in there. So anyway, I am working on the toddler course. That's the thing that I'm mad at myself because I wasn't listening to you. You kept telling me, what about a toddler course? And I'm like, no, they're just crazy. Wait it out. And you keep telling me over and over and over again, it's not for your toddlers, it's for you. You want me to talk you off the cliff because you're going nuts with your toddlers, right? Like in coaching, that's what I do. But then, I just don't know why. I just don't listen sometimes. Frustrate myself. Well, this is not a straight answer with this one. 3-year-old crying when she doesn't get her way and won't stop unless I hug her to calm her. Is this okay? I don't know. does she get her own way though? Like you're kind of, I don't want to go on about that because I don't know. Is it tantruming or just crying or, and does she end up getting her own way? If she says, sorry, mommy, or sorry, daddy, then does she get her own way? Like, I don't know what's going on there. It's kind of it could be a yes or a no answer. And I don't know which one it is. So 5-year-old spitting. We'll put no spitting on the behavior board. And every time they spit, there's a consequence. Okay. I remember years ago, I was working with a client, and they said, "Oh, our kids swear." It was coaching. Oh, coaching is done on Zoom. Anyway, and they were saying, "Our kids just swear constantly. We're just sick of it. We're so effing fed up with all this." They swore constantly, and I said, "You swear?" And they said, "Yeah, but that's because we're adults. We're allowed to." I'm like, oh, okay. Praise the Lord. I got the answers here. I get it. I get what's going on here. I think it was pretty quick, but the parents really struggled to stop swearing. But every time they swore, the kids got to discipline them. And then they said, can we discipline the kids for swearing? I said, absolutely not. You taught them how to do it. So anyway, once the parents stopped, the kids ended up stopping too. It was quite funny. I saw the courses on your site. Is it a walkthrough of information like the board course? Yes, it is. It's a 5-week course, the leadership one. So it's 5 weeks. You get the whole thing at once, though. I had to take out the coaching, the group coaching, because it filled up. I can only handle so many people in group coaching. So now I'm just offering it out there, but I am going to be including some drop-in Zoom coaching calls if you want to hire me for those. And there'll be group coaching, but when I've got time, I'm just going to throw the odd one in. You can pick whatever time suits you. What I noticed was one of the negatives with the group coaching is it's the same time every Saturday. It's noon. It's my time, noon, so it's noon Pacific time every Saturday. A lot of people couldn't turn up, or they're at a sports game and they're trying to listen to the Zoom call. So, and they were recorded. These other ones won't be. They were recorded so they could look at it later, but they would send their questions in ahead of time. None of that will be happening. It'll just be you turn up and you can talk and ask questions and you can learn from other people. So I will be doing that. That one will only be available to the course people. And then the toddler one will be available to everybody. I'm just setting up the back end of all that right now. So it will be group coaching Zooms, and they'll be $50 each. And the toddler talks one, I'm going to try and get that one out first. But then I also want to support my course people. So I'm going to try and get them out at the exact same time. I just don't know what platform I'm going to put them on for sure yet. So anyway, but you understand, they'll just be $50. You sign up for whatever date you're available, and they will not be pre-recorded and sent to you later. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, people are doing really well on that course, but then you know what happens? They finish the course and then they kind of get lazy afterwards. So you got to keep it going. That's why I'm going to offer these little group coaching sessions, and people who kind of have done it before, they can turn up maybe once a month, once every week, whatever they want to do. So just sort of a little catch up. It's like anything. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous and Weight Watchers and all these places where you're trying to change habits or, get off of things. That's why they have weekly meetings, because you need that group support. And anyway, I'm going to get that figured out. But yeah, the course is good. It's 5 weeks, and you read the whole thing first. I'm recommending, when you're doing this on your own now, read the whole thing first and then go back and pace yourself 1 week at a time. It's got tons of other stuff on there. But anyway, yeah, it's good. Some of my regulars on here have already signed up. So, okay. My kiddo has a hard time respecting listening to my partner, not his bio dad. Dad passed. Sorry about that. Is this normal? It just depends on if you're a leader or not. That's all it is. They don't really care about relationships. What I mean by that is they just react to your leadership. So they're going to love the parent, but they don't necessarily respect the parent. So it's just about leadership skills. Is this dad, is he not a leader? Yeah. It usually is out of whack. There's usually one that's the leader, one that's the pleaser, but you only need one really good leader. But when the kids get older, by about 3.5, that one leader, they carry that leadership umbrella everywhere. So if they have a leader that they really respect, they tend to respect everybody else too. It's just the way it is. It becomes who they are because they're following the leader. It becomes part of their persona. Oh, and don't send me email questions about just general parenting. I answer the free stuff is all on here. And I don't have time to answer parenting questions. You should see some of the long emails people, oh, we've got this problem. They're literally like 2 or 3 pages long. Like if you were to print them out about all their problems and they want me just to answer their emails. I just can't do that in my business, but I get a lot of that. Just so if you don't hear from me, that's why. I just can't do that. This is my free stuff, the videos and these lives. And oh, this is interesting. Okay. I can't really answer you, but I sort of will. 8-year-old boy expressing he hates his ears. They do stick out. Should I look into surgical pinning or not? I guess you're going to finish saying. Anyway, okay, here's the thing. I can't possibly answer that. Like, should you get surgery on your son? If that was my kid, I would probably look into it. I'm not saying I would do it, but I would look into it because some kids it might bother, other kids it won't. But if I feel that that is getting in the way of his self-esteem and other kids are teasing him a lot about it, I might look into it. I'm not saying I would do it, but it wouldn't be a hard no for me, put it that way. I would look into it. And I'd also get him some psychological assessing done. Like, how upsetting is this for him? Because I've dealt with a lot of kids who, I don't talk to kids anymore, but I've done, and sometimes I would say, yeah, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some certain things fixed up. But then other kids just sail through it and make jokes out of it themselves. They're all different, right? I remember years ago, I have really a lot of hair, and anyway, not so much now because after menopause, half of it fell out, and so which is great. Now my hair's just thick, whereas before it was huge. And anyway, when it first started coming in really heavy, I remember this. I was in grade 6, and it came in. I guess I had a day where it was noticeable. It was puffier at the top, I guess, because it was coming in like really heavy, and it's very coarse too. Anyway, it was coming in really heavy, and some rotten kid, there's always some bully in the class, and they said, and I've never been bullied, I'm pretty good with words. So anyway, this kid said, "Hey, Frankenstein," because I guess it was like that. So then I went around, every time I'd see him, I go, "Oh, look out, I'm coming, watch for the bolts," and he just, it threw him right off. He didn't know how to deal with it, so he never came near me again. But yeah, I made a joke out of it. And then I learned how to flatten my hair. But when it all came in, and then it was all the same length, and it was just all huge. But I guess it all came in. I must have looked like Frankenstein. Okay, I just love him just as he is. Of course you do. But I don't want him teased. He's very sensitive. You know how I feel about that. I already said exactly how I feel about that. Wouldn't be off the table for me, but I'm not saying I would do it. I don't know. What are the risks with surgery? And you got to outweigh the risks with surgery to his mental health and well-being. That's up to you. That's your call. But yeah, I would definitely consider it. I'd look into it. There you go. I would look into it. Anyway. Yeah, I can't talk about that because I'm not a doctor, right? So what's the easiest way to get my 15-month-old away from the binky? I never know what a binky is because everyone calls it something different. Like, is a binky a blanket? Sometimes it's a blanket, it's a stuffy, or it's a soother, like a dummy, a pacifier. Well, let's say you're talking about a pacifier, I'm assuming. Anyway, oh yeah, tell you what I did with my son. He was 18 months old, and I let him have the dummy. Like, he loved the dummy. He was addicted to it. I let him keep it because we had a big overseas trip. We lived in Australia. We had a big overseas trip to visit my family in Canada, and it was going to be a 24-hour trip with a layover, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, 18 months old, who loves his dummy, and we're going on you can, of course, I was not going to take that dummy away till we got home. So we get home, my husband goes back to work, and I'm at home. My son and I have jet lag, and so I thought, that's it, I'm just going to do it. So I took all of his dummies, and I had him put them in this little Ziploc bag. Then he held it, and I carried him out to the big wheelie bin out in the garage, opened it up, and I said, now you're a big boy now. These are all going away. They're all gone, and that's it. Then I was like this. Like, what kind of day what kind of week am I going to have? He never once asked for them. Now, if his dad had done that, he might have asked for it because I was very much, when mom said something, it happened. But dad, I made sure it was me. Well, I did all that stuff anyway because I was more it was just sort of my thing. But anyway, so yeah, he probably would have asked if it was dad, but with me, he knew because he thought maybe dad would go fishing in the bin. He knew I was never going to do that, but he never asked for it again. Am I recommending you try that? Perhaps. I do believe in pulling off the Band-Aid. I don't believe in just allowing them to have it at bedtime or anything. I think it's either they're having it all the time or not at all. But yeah, that's what I did. Did I expect it to work like that? No. Did it work like that because I'm such a phenomenal parent and no, I think that was a lot because my son had tantrums. So I was ready for it, psychologically prepared for it, but he never had one. Every so often he'd go like this looking for it. And then he'd look over at me and I would go like this. Oh, I'd look away like I didn't notice. He never once asked for it. So I think that was just luck. Sometimes I think, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And there's a lot of stuff I'm really confident about, but that was just pure luck. I'm like you, I'm the rule setter. I'm scared my son will end up not like, oh God, I'm going to go on about this. I was the leader. I don't go on about this. I talk about this more in coaching because people need to hear how important it is to be the leader and why you want to be the leader. You're the one they come to with everything. When you're the leader, you're the one they talk to right through the teen years. Doesn't mean they love you more, but you're it. You're the one they go to. And I was best friends with my kids and I was very much the leader for sure. Their dad couldn't discipline. It just was, well, I didn't want him to. I didn't want him messing up the kids. I knew what I was doing. So if the kids would act out with him or push him a bit more, he would just say, do you want me to tell mom? That was all it took because I was the leader. They'll love you for it. Remember, I worked with hundreds of kids and I bonded with them all. Leadership is about bonding with them too, because that's why you're on that behavior board. You give respect to get it. They have a say in how their life goes. If you mess up, your kids get to punish you. That's the way it should be. So that's why they end up loving it. You're their best friend. The leader is the best friend. You're the one they tell everything to right through the teen years. They can't not talk to you because you're their best friend and they trust you. You're a safe place to land. How can I curb the initial meltdown? You mean with toddlers having tantrums? Why would you want to? Why would you want to do that? You don't want to interfere in that process. Let them go off the cliff and climb them right back up. They have to learn how to do that. That's very important. Don't interrupt that process. I never tried to avoid a tantrum. Never, because I wasn't afraid of them. It was like, bring it on. I know what I'm doing. That's your process. I always figure they've got so many tantrums in them and I don't want to interrupt them because they've got to use them all up, right? But when you get good at this, at ignoring tantrums and all that, let them happen. Don't try and avoid them. If you try and avoid a scene, that you're afraid of your kids. But when you get good at this leadership stuff, I actually wrote it down because I'm lousy at remembering this. When you get good at ignoring tantrums, like a leader, you're right there. Okay. This is how I look at the kids having a tantrum. This is what the kid would see with me. I'm right there and I'm like this, nail file. I'm just waiting. Patiently waiting for them. I'm modeling calm behavior. That's what I'm doing. When you join me, then I'll say, oh, you all done? You want to go to the park? I reward the calm, not the crazy. The better you get at this, the quicker they get out of the crazy and the less likely they are to do it. So yeah, this method decreases tantrums in duration, frequency, and intensity. It was the word duration I couldn't come up with. I said, what is that? The length of time that they have a tantrum, and then like 10 people go, duration, duration, duration. So yeah, you get good at never try and avoid a tantrum, but once it starts, you ignore it like a calm leader. You ignore the crazy and wait till they calm down. Then you don't discuss the tantrum or anything. I don't go into that crazy zone at all. They will eventually just stop doing it because it doesn't work. So yeah, when you get good at this, you're decreasing the duration of the tantrum, the frequency of the tantrum, and the intensity of the tantrum. They'll just stop because they go, this ain't working anymore. I may as well just stop doing it. So what if mom and dad parent different? Well, they always do. You never parent the same. What? Because you're different people. Everybody parents differently, but there's usually one stronger leader than the other, right? But you've got to be on the same page. Like the rules have to be the same for the kids. So you can't have, when you're with dad, bedtime is 12 o'clock at night. When you're with mom, it's 8 o'clock. It's not like that. But they have different styles. Like my ex-husband, we used to call him the treat master. That was his role. He loved doing that. He was very good at it. He loved taking them out, buying them stuff. He was the treat master. I didn't do any of that. because I left that for him because that was his thing. He loved doing it. And I was the one, just I was the buddy. I mean, I was the one sort of just the disciplinarian really, but I was also very much the leader. I was the one they came to when they had problems and all that. So, but we were very different. And he used me as leverage when they were little. And if they would push him, he would say, "Do you want me to tell mom?" So, and I love that because I didn't want him messing them up. I knew what I was doing. I wanted to be the one in charge. And the kids, they do tend to go right to the leader. They couldn't, if dad let them get away with something, they couldn't wait to come home and tattle on him. Guess what daddy let us do? And I'd say, "Daddy, did you let them do?" Like it just got to be a game, right? So you don't have to be the same at all, but the rules have to be the same. Um, okay, I already kind of know the answer here. I'm guessing it. Help with dramatic 6-year-old. This from Jordan. You've been here lots, haven't you? A dramatic 6-year-old girl with tantrums and pessimistic attitude. We've tried ignoring tantrums. Okay, she's getting under your skin and she knows it. She's in charge. That's all that says to me. You might be interested in my course. It's on my website. It's 5 weeks long and it teaches you how to set yourself up as a leader. I was just talking to one of the parents that went through the first thing about. I just talked to them last night. Oh, and by the way, sometimes people will hire me for coaching afterwards when they realize their own problems are getting in the way. So anyway, I was just talking to a parent last night and they said, "We didn't get it until we did the course. It's us. It's not the kids at all. It's us." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I say all the time. We're never fixing kids. We're teaching parents here. We're teaching you how to be a leader." How did I get respect from all those hundreds of kids and teenagers I worked with? How did I get that mutual respect going? Was it because I just happened? I was never handed an easy kid, not once. Not one person ever said, "Here, Lisa, here's an easy one." Not once, not ever. It was always, I got all the alphabet kids. Oh, this one has ADHD, WXYZ. I call them alphabet kids. And those are all the kids I got. This stuff works with all kids. It just does. Autism's a little bit different and learning disabilities, certain things are different. But generally, ADHD, OD, this is where I learned it, is with all those kids that were here you go. Good luck with this one, Lisa. That was more likely what they'd say. By the way, the more challenging the child was, the quicker they were for me to get their respect. Do you know why? Because it was almost like they're just combative kids, like really difficult kids. As soon as they come up against a strong, calm leader, they almost go like this. "Oh, finally." You can see it in them. It's a relief. They need it. They need it. All children need, crave, and want leadership. The more difficult and challenging they are, the more they need that. So yeah, that's why they were the quickest ones for me to turn around. At what age do you think it's too old to become a leader? With teenagers, it kind of changes. You want them more to be the leader, but you can always work on your relationship and getting mutual respect. So it's not so much leadership with teenagers, but yeah, I specialize in teenagers. They're my favorite age. So you still are the leader, like you control the household, you're paying the rent, right? So that kind of stuff. But you want them more to have a big say in their life. So you're not so much the leader with teenagers, but it's never too late to improve your relationship with your children. I would say I think the oldest I ever worked with, and this is my rule, they have to be somewhat financially dependent upon you and still living at home. I think the oldest one I usually say is 25, but I think it was 32. A 32-year-old was very emotionally crippled because they were just catered to, given everything. They didn't work or anything. So that was the oldest, and they were able to improve their relationship to get this kid out and working. No, to get this young person out and work, to get this adult out working. So it's never too late is what I'm saying. But you're not the leader so much, but you're very good at getting mutual respect going and bonding with them. When I'm hired to work with teenagers, parents are often frustrated with me, and I'm always ready for it because I know exactly how it goes. I've been doing this for 17 years. And I say, "You're going to be very frustrated with me, but I'm going to ask you to say and do things you're not going to want to say and do. But all we're doing is breaking down barriers and building reciprocity. We're building a bond in the first 2 weeks with teenagers. Then in the third week, we can start to work on stuff you want to change." So yeah. Do you validate feelings after tantrums? Why? Why? If you can give me a good answer, no one ever has, but if you can give me a good answer, I might answer it. I don't know why. Why would you do that? Okay. My daughter can't stand when I hear the word no. Can't stand when she hears the word no. Daughter can't stand. I don't know how old she is. Is she 16, 6, or 2? I don't know. What do you do with a 5-year-old little girl that's constantly hungry but gets more than enough food? I don't know what's going on there. That could be potentially be something you'd want to take her to a doctor for, see if she has something, some imbalance, some blood imbalance or something. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But if you're really concerned, then I would do that. Is she putting on weight? Like, is it a real concern? Is she active? And I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. A lot of parents, when I'm coaching, their kids are food hoarders. Do you know what's interesting about that? Is I've been doing this for a long time, and this is relatively new, food hoarding. Like, it's not something I heard much about for years. I'd say it's been in the last, I don't know how many years, but a few years now, food hoarding is becoming more common from my perspective when I hear. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it because it's not common enough for me to, and I don't tend to study things. Like, what I mean is I don't tend to look stuff up like that. I just listen to what parents say and then figure it out that way. Okay. I have a 22-month-old who bites and hits and thinks it's a game when I say stop. Okay, I actually have a course on that if you're interested. It's called Toddlers Who Hit and Bite, etc. It's one of my little mini niche courses, and it is $29, and it's one of my niche courses. The course that I sell the most of with the little niche ones is the potty training. That one's popular. Yeah. My 2.5-year-old son constantly bangs his head when being told no. That's because it upsets you when it works. They're just out to lunch sometimes, right? They just do things. You're like, why would you do that? They're just crazy. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just going to do stuff like that. I have actually recommended, I mean, you got to intervene and you want to restrain him from doing that. You say no, but then you don't look at him or talk to him after that. You just restrain him. So prevent him from hurting himself, someone else, or damaging property. So you're restraining them, but you're not looking at them or talking to them. So you're just holding them, maybe pick them up like this, facing out, and your hand on the back of his head so he can't headbutt you. Or some clients have even suggested a foam helmet and say, if you're going to bang your head on the wall or whatever, you have to wear this helmet. It usually lasts for about a week, and then they stop banging their head. They don't want to wear that helmet at all. So. Or some of them, the foam helmet, depends on the age. Some of them just wear a bike helmet. If you're going to bang your head, you have to wear the bike helmet in the house. But then they'll usually bang their head more, you see? So you got to decide what works for you. They're all different. I can't figure them all out. Toddlers, I just can't figure out. Kids and teenagers, easy. I just get them. Toddlers, because they're crazy. They're just forming. They're going to stick their hand down their pants and smear poop on the wall. How can I figure that out? Like, you know what I mean? Once you outgrow that urge to just try everything, it's very hard to look back and think, I don't know why they would do that. I can't answer that. But to them, it's just experimenting. They don't know. Imagine if you're only 2 years old and the first year that you were in the world, you were a potato laying on the ground. Like, they have no context of the world, right and wrong. They're just learning. They're brand new, fresh human beings. She will slap, kick, bite, cry endlessly. She yells, she hates me. Yeah. What age is that? I need to know the age. If she's saying she hates you, she's probably 3, 4, 5, 6. She could even be older. Usually under 3, they don't say that, though. Unless an older sibling taught them that. Well, you said your 2-year-old son is nonverbal and doesn't respond to his neighbor. So is he hard of hearing? Like, has he got cognitive abilities or disabilities or what? Because not being verbal doesn't usually stop them from hearing. So I don't know what's going on. If you want my help, I'd have to assess that situation. And I need to know what doctors have said if you've talked to doctors or whatever. So you'd have to hire me for that one because I don't know what's going on there. You said you walk away from your 19-month-old when he hits his head and he just watches me confused. Yeah, I mean, if that works for you, if he's just hitting his head gently, but my advice is always prevent them from giving themselves a concussion, right? Oh, he responds to his favorite cartoon, so he does hear. So he's got selective hearing. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Did you say how old was he? Can't remember. Um, Can you give me advice on a 2.5-year-old screaming at the top of his lungs when he gets frustrated? I would just walk away from that. Like I don't even hear it. I wouldn't look disgusted and walk away. I would just go like this, like I don't even hear it. So they only do that to get attention, or to get, there's got to be some payoff for that. So you said he's 2. I forgot the question then. He's 2. Well, you said he's nonverbal. I wouldn't say nonverbal. With that implies that they've got issues. He's just not talking yet. I mean, lots of them don't talk till they're 2.5 or 3. So he's just not talking yet. Nonverbal to me, I always think, oh, is there something getting in the way of that? But yeah, he's just. Let me see what your question was. He's not responding. Well, I don't know what to say to that. He's not responding to what though? Like I need an exact example, because it's like he's not responding to what? To here's some ice cream or here's some broccoli? Like, is he just selective in what he's listening to? What can you do when my 7-year-old argues back with me? Oh God. I'm just thinking, do I go into this? Okay, I will. Let's say this is you and a 7-year-old, okay? So the 7-year-old, you've got the behavior board up on the wall, and the 7-year-old has broken the rule. So the rule is he has to make his bed before 10 o'clock every morning, something dumb like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's just say that's it. So it's 10 o'clock or 10:05, and you say, I'll tell you what, Sammy, whatever. Say, I'll tell you what, Sammy, let's go to the behavior board. Now he knows that he forgot to make his bed. He's 7, so you're not prompting him at that age. So you say, I'll tell you what, you didn't do your chore, which was making the bed, by 10. So the consequence is you have to make all of our beds before 11 or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Don't get caught up in what I'm saying, just how this all goes. So then he starts to yell at you and say, I forgot, I'll go do it now. I'll go do it now. Say it was 10 o'clock was the cutoff, and it's 10:05. So it's too late. And then he starts arguing. This is what you do. You keep looking at him while he's at you. You're like this. As soon as he stops talking, you say, okay, so you're going to make all of our beds, and then he comes at you again. So you're listening, but he's being very rude. He's interrupting you. You're following the behavior board. You're discussing it. You're doing the right thing. He's choosing to be very disrespectful. So this is my reaction. I'm listening because I'm not going to talk over him. So I'm letting him talk. And as soon as he's done, and then what's going to happen? You see, I just keep going. Now, if he keeps going, I hate you, you're rotten. I would say, I'll tell you what, if you keep at me like this, we'll do the 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? So what are you going to do? And then go silent. Just wait for him. I hate you, I hate you. That was your choice. 24-hour media blackout starts now. Do you understand? And make it happen. No matter what he says, what he does. I'll go make the beds now. It's too late. I forgot. I didn't know. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? And I'm not discussing it anymore. And that's it. Shut it down. Do not discuss it. So you see that confidence, that calmness, that no anger. It's like a business transaction. That behavior board is law. Treat it like law. If you don't, he won't. So, and just make it happen. He's trying to manipulate you. That's all he is. And when you said he argues back, he's only doing that because you keep the argument going. See how I was just going? And then when he kept going, if you keep at me like this, it'll be 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? What are you going to do? You see how it's so, I've always got something up my sleeve. And then once you get the 24-hour media blackout, then just ignore whatever he says. Go. When I get clients who, and you should see them, they're like, oh my God, that sounds like agony. Once they get good at it, they go, easiest thing in the world, because boy, it works. And I'm like, yeah. Usually when you do that and you're ignoring them and you just go back to talking, this is usually what they do. Like they're confused by, you didn't get upset, you didn't answer them. They're very confused by it. And then they understand, oh, they just will clue into the fact that behavior board's happening and you know how to make it happen. So parents really struggle with this initially, and then they say, piece of cake. Once it starts working, they go, I love that. I love that because they know how well it works, but you got to try it first, right? I can tell you this stuff and say it works and all that, but until you've done it, it's kind of hard. Like you got to practice it. So when I'm doing that, that comes up a lot in coaching is body language. That's a huge, like the behavior board's like 10% of coaching, really is. Like overall, over the big picture, it's about 10% of coaching. And a lot of it that we discuss is body language and tone of voice and how you just everything, how you couldn't, it's like a business. Discipline is like a business transaction. There is zero emotion. You don't explain yourself. You explain yourself, they're in charge. You've already told them about the behavior board. If you start explaining it, they already know. They're not stupid. They already know. Parents get pulled into this all the time. So that's why we do a lot of role playing. I'll play their kid, and then they'll do it, and then they'll play their kid, and I'll do it, and we'll go back and forth. And they're quite self-conscious initially, and then once they get it, they get it. It's just work. It just works. Do I make a big deal about starting new things like a board? Yep, you do. Also, when I'm coaching people, I always say when the kids are like 6, 7 and older, I say, we hired a parent. We want to be better parents for you. That's what you tell your kids, not because of them. We want to be better parents for you. So we hired this lady and she teaches parenting and we paid her a lot of money. And here's what she did. She told us to follow this. So what you're doing is you're taking the blame off yourself. It just makes it a little bit easier for you. And it also gives that behavior board more weight. It gives it more substance. Teenagers, every single time, this is what they ask. When you say, oh, and we don't call it a behavior board with teenagers, it's called an accountability chart for the whole family. Everyone's on there. And you just don't call it a behavior board. It's kind of juvenile. But a lot of people take this to work and use it with staff. And the boss is also accountable. So they have a lot of fun with that. An example of that is if you're late, you can't turn up without a flat of donuts. If you're more than 10 minutes late or something, you have to bring donuts and coffee for everybody. So, and the boss included. So it's an accountability chart. But anyway, teenagers, every single time, because you say, look, I want to be a better parent for you. We want to be better parents for you. So we hired this woman. She costs a fortune. She teaches parenting. And they always say the exact same thing. How much? And I always say, just say it's $20,000. Say whatever you want. But the more money they think you've spent on this when they're older, the more power it gives that thing. Because they're thinking, well, if whatever amount of money went into that, it's going to happen. You see, anything you can do to give that behavior board power, right? So teenagers always say, how much? Always want to know the money value. So it gives it more weight. And they're like, oh, you're really serious about this, aren't you? And then they realize that it's about the parents being accountable because you're bonding with teenagers. You're bonding with them. You discipline children to get respect, but you got to get respect before you can even think about disciplining teenagers. You can start with disciplining if you want, but good luck with that. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, you make that board a really big deal. Yeah, I could use the accountability chart with high school classroom. Yeah, a lot of my clients, about 40% of my clients have child development degrees. They're either teachers, social workers, school counselors, principals, child psychologists. Parenting's different from all that. That's why they hire me. And they often take that to work. So it's used in a lot of classrooms, a lot of offices. I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm sure there's a few of them out there by now. Have you heard of Janet Lansbury? Thoughts? No. If this is a parenting person, I've never read a book on parent. I have no idea what anyone else is doing. I'm kid taught. I've learned everything I know. I've learned through working with kids. So kids taught me all this. Teenagers. The troubled teenagers were the ones who said, you got to teach this stuff, Lisa. Because they said, no one's ever talked to us like you do. And so they're the ones who told me to start my business. And I just went, yeah, whatever. And there was no such thing as a parenting coach. This would have been like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And I just said, oh, whatever. But, they all said that. They said, you got to teach this. And so I didn't know what to do. Anyway, and then I decided I did some career counseling and I spent $5,000 and it was 8 hours a day for a whole week. And they didn't even ask what you like to do or anything. They just did all these tests on what you're good at and what, it was just bizarre. And there was nothing about kids or anything in this whole, 8 hours for a whole week, 8 hours every day for a whole week. And then they said at the end of it, they said, we usually come up with 2 to 8 different jobs that you could be doing. And they said, yours zeroed in on one, and it was teaching parenting. And it never even discussed parenting. They said there was no other job that it even pointed to. teach, and there was no such thing as a parenting coach job. So it said teach parenting. Isn't that interesting? So I wasted $5,000. I should have listened to those teenagers. Anyway, what's a good family motto for the behavior board? It's usually the same thing. And it's just, it doesn't matter what it is. Just say we respect ourselves and others. And that's only there as a gentle, pointy reminder if you see things might start to get out of control. Not once they get out of control, you got to deal with it. But if you see things that get, say, remember the family motto. Oh, okay, that's what it's there for. And a lot of parents say it's useless. Other parents say it works great. So it's just a little throw in because it does work sometimes. But you hear, I never talk about that, do I? Because it's just there, But remember the motto. That's what it's there for. How about ungrateful teenagers? What do you mean? Most teenagers are ungrateful. They're very self-absorbed. It's part of growing up. But rudeness is a different thing. So do you have a question, or I don't know what you mean by that? How far is too far when taking their items? Take toys, take tablet, take TV, read books. Have you looked at the behavior board? It kind of explains that. There's always two consequences for the kids. One is a positive action. If they won't do that, then it's a negative deprivation. You don't start with taking things away. You just go there. If they won't do the chore or whatever they have to do as a consequence for breaking a rule, then you say, okay, well, you chose not to do that. So the backup is 24-hour media blackout. And then when they get that, do it with them. So that you say, hey, we're doing it with you. It's good to have no screen time. How about we play Monopoly or whatever? And then they say, no, I hate your guts, and blah, blah, blah. Say, okay, fine. An hour later, when they've calmed down, you ready for that game yet? So you're always trying to connect with them. Don't worry about how they react. Don't get pulled into that. Be the bigger person. Just keep coming at them, trying to bond with them. 17-year-old only talks when she wants something. I keep trying to talk to her, but she walks away. Yeah, that's coaching. You don't just try and talk to a 17-year-old. There's ways. You have to get into their world. There's ways of doing that. I don't know her what she likes. I don't know your home life. I don't know what kind of parent you are, what your history is, does she have a boyfriend? I don't know. That's coaching. You'd have to hire me for that. Too many variables with teenagers. Okay, how do you break a 4-year-old habit of whining constantly? If they're whining because they want something, that's really the only power you have. So they say, I want that. Say, if you ask nicely, you might get it. If you whine, then you're not going to get it. And then, so make sure it never, ever, ever, ever leads to them getting what they want, ever. They'll grow out of it, but don't let it show that it annoys you. I remember once years ago, I had this kid in the back seat. The mother called me last minute. She had some emergency or something. Can you take my kid home and I'll pick her up later? And I said, sure. No, that's what you do, right? It was at school. So anyway, I picked up this kid. Well, I didn't know her all that well. And she's in the back, but she knew me. I was around school all the time. And but it wasn't a mom I really knew. It's just because I was in the school all the time. All the moms knew who I was because I was always helping out there. So anyway, she's in the back seat of the car, and I didn't know her that well, and she is whiny. What are we going to do in your house? She was just one of those real whiny, the fillings in my teeth were hurting. It was just, I can't handle whining. Tantrums, piece of cake. Whining goes in one ear and just damages my brain cells and then goes out the other ear. So I said to her, I looked in the rearview mirror, looking this way, because in Australia, it's the other way. It's funny when I'm talking about driving in Australia, I'm always thinking left hand, you know what I mean? The other side. Anyway, so I looked in the mirror and she said, when are we going? What are we going to do when we get home? And I said, I don't know. And she went like that. And I said, that's how you sound. And she said, do I? And she didn't know, evidently. And then she kind of, every time she'd start to whine again, and then I would say, there you go again. So then I kind of encouraged, and she stopped whining with me because I just didn't put up with it, sort of. And then her mom picked her up and she started whining again. And the mom was just, oh, really? Let's do that. Mom was feeding it. Mom was feeding into it. So yeah, there's no way if she'd whined with me, she wouldn't have got an after school snack or anything till she asked politely. So they learn, they only do what works past about 3.5 to 3 3/4. They start to only do what works. If whining never works, they're going to stop doing it. Ignoring tantrums has changed my 3-year-old dramatically. Excellent. She now tells me why she is upset instead. Yeah, you already know why she's upset. She already knows why she's upset. Yeah. A tantrum is not a feeling. It just is a reaction to them not getting their own way. That does not need to be validated. So that's why you ignore it. 3-year old only tantrums when not wanting to do something like brushing his teeth, etc. How do I handle? So he tantrums when he doesn't want to brush his teeth. So let me think here. Tantrums. He tantrums when he doesn't want to brush his teeth. You know what I would do? I would put something on the back end of toothbrushing. What I mean by that is he has to, if he, there's always something he wants. It's usually a tablet or a phone. He has some little show or some little thing he can watch. So he can only watch that as after he's brushed his teeth. There's only one little song that he really likes or something. It's like a reward for doing it, but it's not really. You're just withholding it. I know it sounds weird, but anyway. So you say every night he can watch, let's say there's something you do every single night. Make sure he brushes his teeth before you do that fun thing. If you've got no leverage left, what are you going to do? Like you need some leverage because he's just going to keep tantruming and you may never get his teeth brushed because you want him to get to bed, right? So it's like he's kind of got you by the knackers there. That's why I said withhold something that he really likes. Say, well, you sure you can watch the tablet as soon as you brush your teeth, like that. That's my as soon as method. That's why I never told my kids what to do. I really didn't. Like I would just, if they'd say, oh, can we watch TV? I'd say, sure, as soon as you finished your homework. Oh, right, right. Okay, and then they just go and do it. It was always the as soon as method. They never asked for anything they wanted to do until they knew they'd done what they needed to do. They just learned that self-discipline really young. That's why I didn't ever have to discipline my kids. Or they just learned it young. Got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. So withhold the want until they've done the need. So sure you can watch the tablet. Sure you can have my phone to watch your show. As soon as you brush your teeth, like that. See how it goes. I don't know. Might work, might not. I got lots of ideas. That's just one of them. Do you teach, talk about anything besides tantrums, teens with real issues, behavior problems? I specialize in troubled teens. That's how I started my business. So it doesn't come up a lot on here though. Mostly toddler parents are on TikTok. That's why it's mostly toddler questions. But in coaching, it's huge. Well, I started my business on troubled teens. So teens are my favorite age. And I deal with crisis, everything. Some of the stuff, like, you know what's interesting is with teenagers, that's my specialty. I understand them. It's the younger kids. Sometimes parents will come up with something that I'm surprised at. Younger kids are doing things earlier than ever. Like I'm going, wow, that's awfully young to be doing that. You know, there's certain things that I've noticed kids are doing younger and younger and younger. That's what I've been doing this for 17 years. That's what I've noticed. But teenagers, it's always kind of the same. Times change, but people don't. And also, it's very hard to answer teenage questions on here because there's so much history involved. And what are they doing? If they got a boyfriend, do they do drugs? What are they dealing? How are they doing in school? Do they go to school? Do they lie to you? What's your history? What kind of parent are you? You know, there's so many questions around that. And yeah, it's my favorite. It's teenage stuff. Um, any tips on how to deal with the transition of starting daycare for a 1.5-year-old? No, not a 1.5-year-old. If it's like a 3-year-old, I'd say go visit the daycare, go visit and go play in the playground there. You know, ask for a visit so it's not brand new to them. But 1.5-year-old, they're too young for that. So it's just going to be rough. It's going to be they're just going to struggle a little bit. Sorry about that, but that's usually what happens. Unless you can get them in the playground. Even then, when you end up leaving them, it's the fact that you're leaving them that you can't really prepare them for. But yeah, and I suggest you do the dump and run. It's a really fast goodbye. You don't drag it out. It makes it worse. So, and then always talk about when you're going to see them later. Never leave with bye. Go, I'll see you later. We're going to have fun tonight at dinner or whatever, you know. So always leave with when you're coming back, never just bye. I'm going all day. Look, it's not like that. So, but good luck with that. It's just going to be rough. I remember my kids in grade 1, and they were pretty good at all this because they were, but I wasn't. I dropped my kids off and sat in the parking lot and cried. And I wasn't the only mother doing it. So, but they never saw it. I'd like, you'll be fine. Mommy's going to pick you up at 3 o'clock. Won't that be fun? We'll go and get something, and I get in the car. Oh, my baby. So yeah, don't let them see you do that. How do you get an almost 2-year-old to eat food? Well, no one ever likes my answer, but I'm a real health food nut. So, and I made everything from scratch. God, I hate cooking, but I did it anyway. Ugh. Anyway, so I made everything from scratch, and I didn't have junk food in the house. We just didn't have it. So here was my kids had this choice. You can either have this healthy food or that healthy food. So they just learned to eat healthy. They tend to. I find that kids who get a lot of sugary and salty snacks tend to get a craving for those things and tend not to want to eat the other stuff. So they'll almost go on hunger strikes until you give in and give them something salty or sweet. That's been. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't really say that. It's just been. That's an observation. Okay, so my kids didn't get much salt or sugar, so they just ate a lot of broccoli and cauliflower, and they just learned apples, and they just learned. Wasn't all perfect, but it was pretty good, right? And plus, because I made everything from scratch, I had a lot of power in what went into it. Pretty much everything I made had either spinach or wheat germ or some kind of seeds in there. So yeah, I hid stuff. And you know what was funny is my kids, I remember one time my son was little and he went to some birthday party and he goes, their pizza was weird. The sauce was red because they didn't put spinach in their pizza sauce like I did. So he thought ours was brown because I put spinach in it, or it turns brown, not even green. So, but yeah, he thought that the red pizza sauce was weird. Yeah, that's why I made everything from scratch. I hid all sorts of stuff in there. So yeah, just eliminate all the crap and they'll just usually develop healthier taste buds. And my kids, there was no rules with that when they went out. If they were at a friend's house or something, I'd say, have at it, eat whatever you want. And they always came home with stomach aches because they weren't used to all that junk, right? But their friends hated my house. So I would make junk for friends when they'd come over. I'd hold back on the spinach and all that stuff. Trying to get a 2-year-old to play independently, it's so difficult. Yeah, it is, but you get them started. You rev up the engine, then you walk away. So you might say, oh, look at this, and you play for a little bit and then just back away and then talk to them while they're doing it. But you get them started, And it just takes time. My daughter wasn't good at that. My son was brilliant at that from day one. He was really good at entertaining himself. But my daughter, here's a good example of this. I made all their clothes. I'm a sewer. And I had a separate sewing room and I put a gate across. And my son would bring all his toys and play at the gate and talk to me. And I was like literally right there, like 1 foot away from him. So he's playing, but I kept him outside of the sewing room, right? Because it's dangerous in there, hot iron cords and everything. So anyway, and he would happily play and it was great. Or sometimes I'd let him in if I was doing something where there was no iron on and I could watch him. He'd come in because there was a big mirror closet in there too. So they'd love that. But anyway, here's my daughter. She was just a different type. She was not good at entertaining herself at all, but she never cried or anything. She was the easiest kid in the world, never had a tantrum, easiest little child. But this was her outside of the gate when I was sewing. She didn't play, she didn't do anything. She did just her little chin quivering. She just wanted to be with mom all the time. So I had to let her in, and then I'd bring some toys right at my feet, and she'd sit on my feet. She had to be right with me all the time. So yeah, she didn't play on her own, but I just, they're all different, right? But how can you look at that? I mean, I always think I'm tough, but I'm not. Like, that was agony. She's just standing there, chin quivering. It was agony. Thoughts on video games? My son's 5-year-old come over and all they want to do is game. Yeah, that's pretty much all little boys tend to do. A lot of them, except I've got some clients who live on farms and they say, oh no, they're not the least bit interested. They're out driving tractors and all that and 4-wheel driving with those little, what are those things called? What are those things called? They're the little they're like a souped up golf cart. And they just they sit on this front one seat and it's got 4 wheels though. So why would those kids want to play on video games if they're out? Most kids are not on farms though, but I do find the farm kids don't tend to play video games, but they're pretty much all there is. The only ones that don't. Generally, there's exceptions, but yeah, I don't know what to tell you with that. I don't know what to tell you with that. Maybe get other games, things that you can get going, like get creative, look up, they're 5 though, let me think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to ask you what your home's set up like. Like, what could you get going inside the house that would entertain them other than that? I don't know. But I'd look up games and get all sorts of stuff, physical games, not just sitting around games, but physical games where they're throwing things at targets, those Velcro things, dartboards, stuff like that. You know, it's tough though. It is tough. Oh, a gator, a Kubota. Is that what they're called? Oh, okay. Yeah, I know exactly what they look like. They got handlebars that go like that and everything. They're like a bike handlebar. Yeah, you live on a farm. Yeah. How long did it take you to get your daughter to play without you? She was about 21 when no, she was, oh, this was so cute. It turns out she's the type of kid who wants to be out there scheduled doing stuff all the time. It's just her way. She's still like that. She's 28 years old. She still likes to be scheduled and she loves a busy job. She likes a lot of responsibility. She just loves all that stuff. So that's why. It's because she didn't have any responsibility or any job yet. That's why she was like that. Anyway, um, then when she was 3, oh, by the way, she also went into the gym daycare every single morning for like an hour and a half. And so and then there was other kids around, but she still was like Velcro with me. She was very much a mummy's little girl. And that's why but I went to the gym every day. So my son loved it. She not so much. They said, and I said to her, and she got older, like she was like 2 or 3. And I said, if you don't play with the other kids when I'm gone, I'm going to take longer to come back. So she started playing more once she understood that. And I had to really figure out how to explain that. Like, how am I going to get her to play rather than just standing at the door waiting for mommy, right? She was just like Velcro with me, which isn't good. You don't want that. But anyway, here's the funny thing. She was 3 years old and in Australia, where we were in Queensland, Brisbane, where she was born and raised. My son was born in Sydney. Anyway, they start kindy at 3, preschool at 4, and then grade 1 at 5. That's the way it goes. But usually they do like 2.5, they do 2.5 days of kindy, and then preschool they do 2.5. I think this is how it worked. So kindy is 2.5 days, and then preschool, or it's every day for half a day, I can't remember, and then preschool is 2.5 days. Well, that's 4 years old. So what I did with her when she was 4, because she just needed to have a schedule filled. It was just her way. She was in dance and did other things too. But I put her in 2 different preschools, in the normal school one, which was free, and then I had her in the paid one, the private one. So she was going 5 days a week to preschool. And a lot of kids did, if they had working moms especially. I wasn't a working mom, but she needed to be scheduled. She needed activities. So anyway, and it was good for her to socialize and break away from mom more. Anyway, this was hilarious. My mom was visiting from Canada, and we were chatting away, and my daughter just wouldn't leave us alone. She was just sitting there watching. She was such an easy little kid, but she was just in our face, so we couldn't really talk. And I said, I told you to go in the pool. We're watching you from here. We can see you. And it's okay. I'll just sit here. And I said, that's why you're in preschool 5 days a week, because you won't give mom any space. And she said, she was the sweetest little girl, but she came out with this. She said, hard luck on the weekends. In other words, you're stuck with me on the weekends. Well, my mom and I just about wet ourselves. We laughed so hard. That was the first really funny thing she ever said. And she was trying to be funny because we were a crazy family. But yeah, hard luck on the weekends. Good one, eh? I love that. She was easy. She was just the easiest kid in the world. I don't take any credit for that. She was just born that way. Okay, any advice on keeping your 5-year-old from waking up multiple times a night? That's bedtime battles. And by Saturday, I have to have that done. So I'll have a whole course on that. Where is that here? I won't even show you my list. It's huge. This is stuff I wanted to get done today. All the personal stuff's getting put aside. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Bedtime battles. Anyway, just a sec. What you do is, if you don't want them to do that, you just say, okay, from now on, and use the behavior board and say, the rule is you stay in bed or follow bedtime routine. So the bedtime routine is like an hour, and then they're in bed, and you say, okay, lights out, stay in bed, don't get out of bed. Every time they get out of bed, you put them back in bed physically, and you say, I said it's bedtime, don't get out again. The second time they get out of bed, you say, bedtime. Then every time after that, you don't look at them or talk to them. You just physically put them back in bed. If they're yelling, kicking, screaming, just have them, one body part has to touch the mattress. Then you're always calm and slow. You're not talking. You're not looking at them. You're like very robotic, no emotions. And then but don't let them run out of the room. If they chase you back out, Don't let them get past you because you don't want to be running around the house chasing them. So just every single time. It's usually one night of sheer hell, but it's usually worth it. And they'll just learn that you mean business when you say stay in bed. You mean stay in bed. So I wonder where she got that from, or who got what from. Oh, the sarcastic comment? Oh, she would have got that from me. Absolutely. 100%. I couldn't have been more proud. I'll tell you when she said that. It was like, because my son, the first time he ever came up with something really funny, like witty, was I think he was 8, and I had a journal. I used to write all these things down, and now it's on the Google Drive somewhere. Anyway, and my son came home from school, and he said, there's this new kid in school, and his name is spelled John, but he was from South Africa, evidently, I think, and he pronounced it Jean, or he's from France, or I don't know what it was. Anyway, and my son said, he pronounces his name wrong. And my son was confused by that. And I said, sweetie, it's his name. He can pronounce it any way he wants. So my son said, I don't want to say his name. We'll call him Johnny. So my son said, okay, my name is Johnny, but it's pronounced Braveheart. That was brilliant. So I love that. I love that. I thought that was so clever. So clever. But yeah, my kids are both very witty. Okay. My mother was very funny. Any tips on getting a 3-year-old to pick up his toys, clean up? Okay, you got to make it doable and manageable. Yeah, I do a toy rotation system. I don't like playrooms. I just don't. They're chaotic. It's too much. So I only like a few toys out at once, and they're usually just in their room, or they might have them in the family room. And I don't like playrooms. I want my kids around me. Like I didn't want to, go to the playroom. I just don't like it. I don't like playrooms. I just don't. I'm not like you shouldn't have one, but I don't like them. I just don't. I want my kids right around me all the time. So anyway, but I did a toy rotation system. So when I said pack up your toys, it's going to be dinner time, they had 5 things to put away, and there was just an empty shelf. So it was very doable, manageable. Often toy rooms are just overwhelming. Everything's in their face all at once, and they don't learn how to focus. How are they going to clean up if it's like overwhelming, right? So make it really easy and really doable. So yeah, you got to set them up for success with that. So is it really doable, or do you have a lot of clutter around? Then you can't really expect them to clean up. But then I didn't tell you how to get them to do it. Okay, so put that on the behavior board and say follow chore chart. And on the chores, it'll say something like pack your toys up at the end of each day. That's their chore. Or you can just put that as the rule. The rule is pack up your toys at the end of each day, but it's got to be doable, got to be easy. So it has to be done before a certain time. You always have to have a timer on something. And then just make sure it's doable, though. Make sure it's easy. My kids had three things that they just had to do from, I think, the age of 3. Every day they had to make their bed, put their laundry away, and put their toys away at the end of each day. I can't remember when, but anyway, they just did it all. But I'm kind of anal with all that stuff. So I'm very organized. Like there was an empty hanger with their shirt. I did laundry every single day. So it was only one outfit to put away. And they just had to roll their pajamas up underneath the pillow. And then they just had a duvet, a doona they call it in Australia, just pull that up. It could be messy. Their toys and books was just very few things to put away. And then I would go in, usually after they were asleep, and I'd organize all the books, so they were all, I didn't make them do all that fussy stuff. So I made sure they were all like, size and all set up nicely. So I went in and did the extra stuff afterwards. But yeah, it was just easy to do. So why would they not do it? And then the thing was, people say, well, did you punish them if they didn't do it? Well, no, it was just, there was no TV or anything. Like, well, they would never have asked to watch TV if they hadn't done their chores. They just wouldn't have done it because they understood from a really little age, you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. So they wouldn't have asked mommy for something. Oh, can we have a treat or something? Or can we have, well, have you done your chore? Have you made your bed? Oh, sorry, mom. Then they'd go and do it. So you see, it's just easy. It's a flow. You get into that. That doesn't start right away. You got to work for that. You got to earn their respect before all that stuff works. And that's what I teach. The behavior board is just the start of it. When I'm coaching, I would say the behavior board is like 10% of coaching. We talk about it a lot, but a lot of other stuff goes on behind the scenes with that behavior board. So, but the behavior board is a really good place to start, and that's free if you want to do that on your own. I also have a full course now on my website. You'll see I've got a note beside it now because I had to make some changes to it. But that's if you have a 3 to 12-year-old, it teaches you how to get respect by setting yourself up as a calm leader. It's 5 weeks. Go through it. And it's paced out. You know, I thought, do I put it out? I only give you 1 lesson per week, each week. And then I thought, no, because I'm not doing the group coaching with the way the course is set up now. You'll see why. So I've just put it all out there, and then you can just go through it all, read the whole thing, and then you go back and then pace yourself. Because there's a whole bunch of other information with each week too that you might want to refer to. Anyway, people are doing well on it. So how do we get our 3-year-old out of our bed? I already just said the bedtime stuff. He's terrified of his room. Have a nightlight. Or also, if he's that terrified of his bed, put the bed frame up on its side or get rid of it and just put a mattress down. If he truly is afraid of under the bed. I still look under the bed every night. I heard a horrible story just a few months ago about this girl that woke up in the morning and found her stalker had been under her bed all night. So now I'm 62 years old, and every night I look under my bed. I haven't done that since I was probably 6. I wish I had a filtering system so I didn't tell you people stuff like this, but isn't that embarrassing? And then sometimes I'll wake up at 2 a.m. realizing I haven't looked under my bed. I'll turn on the light and look under my bed. Yeah, I'm mature. Oh, thoughts on red 40 and foods? Does it really? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. What time is it? Oh, I've been on here for over an hour now. I got to get going. Get up and check under bed. Yeah. None of that works. He screams and freaks out. You might want to hire me. You know, that's obviously not a simple answer. You might want to hire me. Sometimes people will say to me, they'll even send me emails. Well, you didn't help me on TikTok. Well, your problem is like it was something huge. And I said, I can't help you on here. Like as if I owe you all the answers on TikTok and I can come up with everything. That one just struck me as funny. It was just recent. If you're watching now, you know who I'm talking about. It's this huge problem and I couldn't solve it on TikTok live. That was funny. Anyway, you have hired me since, so that's okay. More happy and beautiful. More happy and beautiful. What is that referring to? You have changed so much after coming to TikTok. You have changed so much after coming. So I've changed, or I've changed so much for you? I'm just curious what you mean by that. And if it's for you, that's what I hope you mean. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm just looking here. Oh yeah, okay, so I really have to get going. My website is bratbusters.com. If you go on my website, you can hire me for coaching, download my free behavior board, or buy one of my courses. The Calm Leadership course is out now. If you have a 3 to 12-year-old, it's a 5-week course, teaches you how to be a calm leader. It goes week after week. You do 3 weeks of behavior boards, and then you do in-the-moment discipline in week 4 and 5. That's when you start to get away from the behavior board. The behavior board is just temporary. That's just teaching you how to do this. Okay, I've been asked about this before. Just I can't help but answer this. Are you familiar with the 1, 2, 3 magic parenting, and do you approve? I do not critique other people out there or other named things. I just don't. There's certain things I hate, like timeout and that, but lots of people are teaching that. So I'm not critiquing one specific thing. I don't do that. Plus, I don't know who's doing what. I have no idea. I am very careful about that. I stay in my lane. I'm so busy dealing with parents. I don't look at what my competitors are doing. Why would I do that? Because what am I going to learn? I know. What am I going to learn from that? Kids taught me all this. Kids are my teachers. Teenagers are my teachers. They taught me all this. So why would I listen to an adult? You know what I mean? Like I'm kid taught. So yeah, if I was adult taught, I would probably know about that. But I was going to be a child psychologist, I thought. I was about 20 years old, and I entered a prerequisite course, and they kicked me out after a week because I asked too many questions. I'm sure they've improved by now, but it was just garbage. It was absolute trash. It was so patronizing towards kids, the way you should be this authority and know it all and outsmart kids and everything. I thought it was garbage. There was no mutual respect in it at all. It was just, you respect me. Anyway, I hated it. And also the other students were asking me more questions than the teachers, so they couldn't. I should have held out. I should have just said, I'm not leaving until you pay me double. All they did was refund the money I paid. I could have gotten them to pay me 4 times the amount to get rid of me. They hated me. Anyway, I'm sure that they've improved it, but thank God I never went through with that, because really I was already learning from kids. That's why I knew so much already. And then what if I'd let this adult influence me? Like, would have been a disaster. Anyway, it was funny. So anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.